All right, I think we're good. So it is Monday, March 1st. We have two items on our agenda. They are similar. We have order number 16-21, 100-6443 AAH, which is a request for approval for a flat wall sign for Apex Mini Golf, 21 Apex Drive within the HRM UOD. And order number 1621, 100-6443 AAI. Request for approval of a flat wall sign for Apex Kids, 21 Apex Drive in the HRM UOD. They are similar, so I'm going to let discussion kind of go in general between the two of them, and then we will take, if there is a motion to do something, we will take a vote to do them separately. I would like to just open this up with, we do have Ethan Lippett from Code Enforcement. We do have Kevin Erickson from Entertainment from the facility, and we do have the sign person, Brandon Courier. I'm going to do a roll call of the committee members and see who else from the council is here before we begin. For my committee members, Councilor Landers.
Councilor Landis is present in the chamber.
Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette is present in the chamber.
Councilor Navin.
Councilor Navin is present.
Councilor Wagner. I do not see her on the teams. And Councilor Roby is present. So we do have a quorum. We can proceed with the meeting. And before I let anybody that's on here from outside speak, I'm just going to open this up for any questions that the members of the committee might have for the petitioner or for Attorney Erickson. And if not, I will let them speak. So committee members, questions?
Councilor Roby, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just have just basic question. Maybe Mr. Lippett could answer it as far as it looks like these two signs do not meet the current sign code. I assume because they are too big. Is that true? You may want to go to the.
Hi, Counselor. Hi. So they do not meet the current sign code because they were installed without permit and they are already on the building.
Okay, but they are the proper size and there isn't the issue aside from them just already being there, right?
Yeah, so their issues is their installation practices rather than their actual size capacity.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that. I appreciate it.
Anybody else with questions from the committee? I'm sorry, I can't see if anybody's got their hand up in the chambers. So if you do, please just raise your voice.
Councilor Landis, President.
Councilor Landers?
Yeah, so the bone of contention is the signs are within size. The fact was that they put them up before, what, they got a vote from the council?
Yeah.
Which is not good. When did these go up, Council? When do they go up, Brandon? When did these go up? January? No, maybe. Can you hear me?
Mr. Courier, can you confirm when these were actually put up? If you want to unmute yourself, you can answer that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that he was requesting for me. I can get an exact date, but it was, I would say, within the last month.
Yeah, like January, the end of
Couple
January.
months, yes. Yep.
And
I can get an exact date if you'd like.
And what was the delay in getting the approval? I mean, quite honestly, the signs look good. I visited the miniature golf course last week. My fixed income, I can't afford it. It's $11 a person, but they're very nice. But why didn't it come before the council? Why didn't you get the approval?
Counselor, can I speak to that? This is Attorney Kevin
That's
Erickson.
what I'd like you to speak, Brian.
I think that this was just simply inadvertence in the sense that these signs are actually smaller than the signs that were on there before, and they're just replacement panels. So they were treated like a panel on a monument sign, right, wrong, or indifferent. And you know, I don't think it was a intention to subvert the process at all. I think rather it was, you know, seen as a situation where a permit wasn't required.
So you're saying...
And now we certainly appreciate the fact that this process is to be gone through in situations like this. But again, I think it wasn't a delay in the application. It was just inadvertence mistake.
Because I know I went up there midwinter, and the renovation was in process for the miniature golf course. You know, so that took, Brendan, that must have taken, well, I guess the renovation must have taken, say, 4 to 6 weeks. So by the time they knew they were going to convert it, and I think we heard that there was a miniature golf course going in, that's, you know, too bad the sign, the permission to change the sign or permit for the sign, you know, didn't happen then. You know, here again, it's another nice asset to the Apex project out there. The miniature golf course is very, very lively, very nice, and first class.
Thank you. We're excited for it. Obviously, we were not, you know, pleased to see Minecraft go. That was sad. We enjoyed that use and that tenant. And the same with BB Kids. Unfortunately, as I'm sure the commission can imagine, or the committee can imagine, the pandemic has taken its toll. And you know, we're happy to be able to provide that amenity now to the city, which I actually think is, I agree with the councilor. I think it's a great product to have in the city. You know, it was sort of bittersweet.
All right, are there other counselors, or Counselor Landers, did you have other
No,
questions?
I'm really all set. It's just that, you know, I guess, Ethan, have we fined them already? Or have we, you know, put any fines on them for putting up?
Fines have been assessed related to the photos that I took on September 30th of the installation of the Apex mini golf signs on the building. At that time, it was we were trying to determine whether those signs were UL listed or not. They are not panels. Each one is individually UL listed in terms of its installation.
So did you say September?
September 30th.
They weren't up in the building September 30th.
They were installed on September 30th. That's the date of the images that I took at 4 p.m. at my inspection.
Okay. And then what happened after that? I mean, it's March 1st now.
Right. We had a discussion with the property management team at Apex at that time during the course of the annual inspection of the property, and told them that they were required to pull a permit back in November. And at that time, they did not pull a permit till we sent them an action with a fine.
And how much was the fine?
The fine was $50. There was another fine associated with the property related to other buildings on the site that were also installed without permit. So those were where most of the fines had been assessed through, which had already been through City Council as it relates to the painted surfaces at Aviva Trattoria, which is technically the same lot but not the same building.
Okay, Madam Chair, I'm not sure where we go from here. I don't think we've ever got involved with fines. You know, how do we work this out? I'd hate to think that the miniature golf course would go away, which I don't think it will. I don't know how expensive it would be to take the signs down and put them back up. So where do we go from here, Madam Chair?
Well, if you're asking me, I guess my opinion, and I can't make the motion, and I don't know that anybody's ready for one, I would suggest that we have the signs removed. And then when we know that they're removed, we can meet again as a committee and we can make a decision if we want to approve these. Assuming that's done, then they would be told by Mr. Lippett that they have our approval. The permit would be finalized and they could put the signs back up. But that's just my own personal opinion.
I mean, I have a
At this
hard,
point, I'll just throw that out there as a suggestion and open it up unless you have some other comments, Councilor Landers?
no, I have a hard time. First of all, the hardest time I'm having is going against our enforcement people. I mean, they work nonstop. And if it wasn't for them, the city wouldn't look as good as it does. And that project, they kind of kept that under control, except most signage came before us. And that's what galls me a little bit, but it didn't come before us. If it had, back in now September, it would have been fine. As far as the dollar amount, it's not a lot of money. What I hate to see, though, is I'm not even sure what the cost of taking the sign down. I don't know if you bring a truck with a hoist in it, you take the sign down, then come before us and then put it back up. And I imagine that would take 2 or 3 months. So I'm in a situation, I'd like to see what the other members of the committee feel. We can't have this happening. We can't have it go against our code people, code enforcement people. But yet, we gotta figure this out, Are they gonna do it again? Not sure. We have another problem down the street a little bit. We had some stuff go up. So I'm not sure, Madam Chair, but I'd really be interested in see what the other 2 members that are present on Urban and other members, what they feel, how do we work this out? Keeping in mind that code enforcement, they did their job. That's all.
Councilor Landers, you are correct. Code enforcement did do their job. Now we need to decide what we're going to do. And I know it does seem unfair, but I think I went back through the history and we recently, as a matter of fact, just did an approval of a sign change for a sign that existed on a building. The name of the organization changed, so we approved a new sign to go in both on the building itself and on the freestanding pole that's out on Route 20. So I think that there is history for people to know that they need to come back when a sign that already exists needs to be changed. I'm going to see if anybody else on the committee has questions or comments, and then I'll open it up for other councilors.
Madam Chair, Councilor Navin.
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate those thoughts. I guess the thing for me is that, this just kind of seems to be a troubling pattern that is starting to happen over in that area. The Apex Center has brought a tremendous amount of investment to the city, and that shouldn't be overlooked. It's brought a great amount of people to that area. It's brought in a great amount of money for people coming into the city. That said, as you just mentioned, there are other businesses across the city that have had to play by the rules. This should be no different, in my opinion. And we're still waiting as of 6 o'clock tonight, the painted signs over at the other part of this property, we're still up, and, we have asked, we have voted that those need to be taken down. I think it's a troubling pattern that people start, only asking for forgiveness instead of asking for permission. And, so I do think that we should act to make sure that people are following the rules that we require all our businesses to use across the entire city. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Navin, and I guess I would agree. Part of me wants to not approve this until all of the code enforcement violations are fixed, but I don't know that I need to impose a punishment on the Apex Entertainment Center because of another building. So I may be a little more lenient, but again, my opinion. Anybody else from the committee who has not spoken?
Madam Chair, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, I do agree with what's going on here. It is frustrating to hear companies come up to us from that facility, again, asking for forgiveness instead of permission, to use Councilor Navin's phrases. It's like they're not taking this seriously. We're supposed to have a collaborative environment with this development, and they just seem to ignore, or at least try to avoid, actually working with us, and instead working against us. So I got no problems figuring out how we take steps to mitigate the issues that they've already made for themselves, as far as removing the signs go. I think we can't hold one business at bay for the acts of another business, but, the developer of that whole property should be very aware of what's going on right now, and it's pretty frustrating as far as what's not, the disregard for what the rules were set up for this development. I mean, it has brought in a lot of revenue into the city, investment into the city. The pandemic has not been good for them, and I sympathize for that. But, I think that it's important that they play by the rules that we set up for them and live within the framework that they have. So, thank you.
Thank you. So is there any counselor not on the committee that is at the meeting that has questions or comments?
Councilor Roby, it's Councilor Ossing.
Counselor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if this came before us properly, we wouldn't have blinked. We would have approved it, not a problem. I mean, it's hard to tell there's a difference between the two signs. So from my standpoint, pay the permit fee, pay whatever fines have been assessed by code enforcement. I'm looking for some type of assurance from Walker Realty that, you're going to follow the rules. And I hold the sign company a little bit, a lot responsible. I mean, yes, it's a sign, but they know when they put signs up in the city, signs require permits. And I don't care if you're changing the color, the ordinance doesn't specify. If you're putting up a sign, it says you got to get a permit, period. Now, if we want to change our rules and say if you put up a sign without a permit, there's a $1,000 fine, pick a figure, okay, we can do that if we want. But code enforcement assesses penalties associated with not following the program. So to take the sign down and put the sign up, okay, the big tough city council stomped their feet and did something. But I get back to business right now. And businesses are hurting, doesn't get them off the hook for not following the rules. So pay the permit, pay the fine. I'd expect Attorney Erickson to come up with something that says how the next guy that changes locations in the Apex Center does not put a sign up, because I'm still confused, or not confused, troubled by, is it the applicant that doesn't know better, or the sign company? To me, if you're in the sign business right now and you know you're doing business in Marlborough and you don't know that you need a permit, you probably shouldn't be doing business in the city of Marlborough. All right? I mean, if I got a roofer comes to my house to put a roof on my house, they know they got to go get a permit. Same thing if it's plumber, electrician, you name it. So somewhere something is falling by the cracks. So again, Madam Chair, pay the permit fees, pay the fines. I'll let Attorney Erickson tell us what they're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if the council wants, let's add an item to the building code enforcement's toolbox that says if code enforcement finds a sign that's up that hasn't been permitted, it's an automatic $1,000 fine. That gets the sign company's attention really quick, because the problem is we fine the owner, probably should be fining the sign company because they know better. The roofing company comes up, we don't go fine the maker of the shingles, we go find the guy that's putting the shingles on my roof. So that would be my recommendation to the committee, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Councilor Orem has his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. first and foremost, I agree with Council Landers. I concur with him 100% that we have to support our enforcement agents. And on that note, if I may ask our enforcement agent, Ethan, about the fine itself. Is it a one-day fine, Ethan, or is it goes up incrementally for the next day and then the day after, and then at that highest point every day thereafter?
Currently, it was assessed as a one-day fine. It can technically be assessed every single day that it is hung, and it can be assessed to both the building owner and the installer of the sign as two separate fines. So any sign contractor can be assessed the same fine, or the sign contractor itself can be assessed the fine, even if the sign installed on the building is removed.
And if I may, that $50 fine, does that go up to 100 the next day and then 150 every day thereafter? Does it go up incrementally?
Yes, it has to be entered into the system and enforced in that manner and expressed through citation every single day, or after a set period of time, it is sent as an accumulation letter to the property team. So at this time, as soon as the city council makes their determination, I can send out the summation of the fines accumulated to this point.
Okay, that actually will help satisfy my concerns with this. And I don't disagree that we're trying to be, business friendly, but at the same time, this isn't the first time. So I will leave it up to the committee, but I concur with many of the comments the committee has made at this point. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilor Landers?
Council Landers, before I let you speak, I'm going to see if anybody else that has not spoken would like to say something. And if not, Councilor Landers.
Okay, Madam Chair, I guess I'd like a fine, some type of fine structure worked out with the code enforcement people do that. And I guess, I hate to see the signs be taken down. I was wondering if we could put some type of covering over them. And what that tells them, customers and people in Marlborough, that, we don't tolerate people doing things without going through the proper channel. So at least we cover that. So I guess my question is to Brandon, is there something that we could, because assuming that you will go through the proper channel, that we definitely will probably approve it. We try to approve projects out of Apex. I imagine it could all be done within a month. Is it possible to cover the exterior of these signs for a month without it blowing away and flapping in the breeze? And that sends the message to our enforcement that they did wrong. And we're not gonna let them display that sign until they go through the proper channel. So, Madam Chair, if Brandon could just comment on the possibility of doing that, or does it make sense?
Counselor, Brandon is a consultant for the applicant.
Okay.
So with respect, I'd like to respond to that rather than have Brandon do that.
You can, Mr. Erickson, but I guess the sign permit was actually made by the sign company.
True, but we're the owner and they work for us.
Okay, I will let you respond.
Okay. I have read the message loud and clear here from the committee, and I appreciate where all these comments are coming from. I do hope you believe me that this was not an ill-intended act, and I recognize everything that's been said, that we should know better. But again, we're I don't want to use this as a excuse to the point where I lose credibility, but I have to tell you that first and foremost on our mind and on our tenants' minds at the Apex, and I know this goes for every business in the city of Marlborough, but it's survival. And I hear the talk about punitive fines. I hear the talk about covering signs, so that our customers don't make the businesses even there, just when we've been able to reopen some of these businesses and increase capacity. I hear, the talk about removing the signs and putting them back up. And I get where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of frustration, but it's punitive and it doesn't help us. It really doesn't help the city. I am going to be able to, believe me, convey this message loud and clear to the property owner, to the tenants, to Barlow Signs, who again works for us, that this can't happen again. By the same token, I would ask that you not look to, especially in this time, cause us financial pain for the sake of financial pain when that's not going to teach the lesson. The lesson's learned. The lesson is learned. I have sat here and listened to the frustration, and I understand where it's coming from. I will say that I don't think it's fair to take a violation of one tenant and conflate that with this violation, for example, when it comes to Aviva. As I've mentioned to the inspectional department recently, and I know they have as well, even though we're not here for this, I do want the council to understand that we can't paint over that sign right now because it's of the freezing temperatures. So we've tried to make that position aware. But regardless, I don't want that issue to be conflated with this. These are two very separate incidents. And this one, truly is inadvertence. And as far as I'm aware, I know there was mention of reaching out in November by the inspectional department. I've got a building permit application here that's dated in early January. Actually, it's dated December 12th and received January. I think that some of the delay here, frankly, had to do with the holidays, because this is signed by Barlow's applicant and dated December 12th. So I don't think that the response time, once this was really brought to a head by the inspectional department, was very long. I think it's March 1 now, but I don't think that's because we didn't file for the application. So some of the delay, I think, was natural holiday delay. Some of it may have just been craziness of the situation, but I appreciate what Councilor Ostling said and take that to heart. And I also would concur that in this time, it's not helpful for us to be whacked with excessive fines, penalties, fees, nor to have a lift come out and remove a sign, only to put it back up a month later. I'm throwing myself on the floor of the committee here and asking for clemency.
Thank you, Attorney Erickson. I think you're right. My comments were made out of frustration, but I guess with Mr. Lippett in the room, unfortunately, I can't read it. It's not the stamp on the building department form. It's dated 12/14. Looks like to me it was received in the early part of January, because I can see a 0. And then I can't make out the next number. So unfortunately, but it looks to me like it was received not until January, and you're probably right, the holidays did come into play. Just for my own clarification, Mr. Lippett, you had stated that an initial $50 fine was sent, and that is, if we make a decision tonight to approve this, then you were going to be sending out a final notice for a fine, which would be the accumulative total from when you sent your first fine through today's date, or the date that we actually approved this as a council. I guess I hear Mr. Erickson, but to me, if a fine is supposed to be assessed, it needs to be paid. And I would hope that it's more than $50, which is what they've gotten so far. So can you clarify what they get?
The fine would be from the day that we had done the initial inspection back in September to the date that we had received the copy of the building permit application. So it would be September 30th to approximately January 5th, unless somebody else had
Your mic is, make sure your mic's on. Okay.
Did you hear any of that?
No, none of it.
So, hang on. Just take the mic out. Just keep it on. Is it on?
It should be now, yep.
Okay. So at this time, the fee is $50. If the fee is going to be more than $50, then we'll send out the fine for the accumulation of days between September 30th and January 5th for the time frame that it took them to apply for the permit, which would be $50 a day, and then you would extrapolate out from there, and it would be assessed to the property team as the property there at the Apex Center, because fines are assessed to the lot and not to the individual building as it relates to signs. And then there would be a separate fine that would also be sent to the installer as it pertains to that, and no work in the city could take place from that installer until the fines were paid.
Madam Chair, Councilor Ossing.
Counselor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethan, did the city write the warning or violation back in September 30th? I mean, did they get a formal notification from us that they were in non-compliance?
I believe at that time some sort of notice was sent out. I would have to double check my records in order to ensure that that had been sent. My understanding at that point was that our biggest concern was related to the installation of that sign and whether it was UL listed, because it had been electrified and turned on. So we had reached out to the electrician through the wiring inspector to tell the electrician there who had pulled permit in relation to Apex Mini Golf that those signs would need to be included under the electrical permit, and they would need a sign permit at that time. And that they were, we were expecting to hear some sort of follow-up from the electrician at that time. So that was the official notification that had been sent through the proper channels, through the building department in order to assess that.
Well, thank you. And the reason I asked, Madam Chair, is if we're going to go back to September 30th, I'd want to make sure our documentation trail is correct, that we've actually notified the applicant that they were in violation. And I only say that because I review all the ones that get sent to me, and I just don't remember this one, that's all. And I review a lot of them because you guys are very busy, so I could have missed it. But I just want to make sure that there is a real paper trail of the, all right, I'll call like this. We're not going to go back to September 30th and start assessing a fine for $50 a day. That's insane. I'll take the sign down. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Ossing, I didn't hear some of what was just said, so I apologize. I personally did not see the fine issued to Walker Realty. It doesn't mean it wasn't, it just means it didn't cross my desk.
All right, so maybe that's something that can get clarified by the code enforcement and Mr. Lippett to make sure. I know I also did not remember seeing one. We did get the copy from the Aviva sign for that fine, but again, I believe that fine statement said that they would be assessed on a daily basis, and we've only gotten a copy of one fine. All right, so I see Councilor Orm has his hand up. Do you have questions or comments for further?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And as we were talking, I did a couple assessments, one to today's date and one to January 5th. If you look at the incremental increase after 2 days, it gets up there. It's about 100 days till January 5th from September 30th, at 97 days. If you're looking at 50 a day, it's 5,000. If you're looking at incrementally, you could be up to 14,500. If you look until today's date, per sign, it could be 22,500. Those are very hefty fines. Again, I would just ask that Ethan seek legal counsel from our city solicitor on what's the maximum, and then we come back. The chair, it's your wish to do what you wish on this, but just to set maybe the grounds for this not happening again, because obviously it could be a very expensive ordeal if it's not taken care of immediately. Thank you.
All right, so we've had a lot of discussion. Is there anybody on the committee who is ready to make a decision on what action we want to take tonight?
I think, Madam Chair, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette?
I think at this point, it seems that for both of them, we'd probably have to postpone these to the next meeting. Because I think we've gotten as far as we can today. I mean, we got action items that need to be addressed as far as making sure we know what the dates, to get a real hard schedule, what actually happened as far as notification goes. I'm not ready to vote on anything tonight.
Madam Chair, Councilor Landers.
Councilor Landers?
I'll be honest, I have a serious problem when we're talking about a fine of 1,000 or 5,000 or 15,000 or 22,000. I really have a problem with that. But I also have a problem, you know, not supporting our enforcement people. So somehow we have to come up with a meeting of the minds here. You know, how do we show support to the excellent job that code enforcement does throughout the city? And they've been pretty patient with this Apex project. And as I said earlier tonight, what galls me a little bit, you know, Apex signage went pretty well because all it had to do was come before the council and, you know, we approved the signs. That's what really galls me. But somehow we got to show support for enforcement. And it's kind of a slap in the face at us too, but I don't care about that. But we have to, you know, we have to hit them with something. You know, I don't know if we hit them with a $500 fine and let the money go to, I don't think legally we can do it, let the money go to the food pantry or something, you know? I mean, somehow the message has to be made that they did wrong. But also the message has to be given that code enforcement is doing their job. So I guess the 3 or 4 of us that are here, you know, I'd like to see us come up with a consensus and move on with this. That's what I'd like, Madam Chair.
Councilor Landers, I would agree. I think we need to come to consensus. I will point out 2 things. The Apex Kids sign building department form is filled out with a $50 permit fee for an $8,000 sign. And the building permit for the Apex Mini Golf, $50 permit fee for a $18,000 sign. So keep that in mind. I don't know if Mr. Lippert would like to be able to confer with the solicitor on what is proper and look back at his records, and he can bring information to us at a future meeting. We could, somebody could move to postpone and we can bring this back at a future meeting.
Well, I would, Madam Chairman, I would make a motion to postpone to get that information from the Code Enforcement Office. You know, they've been very good over the years, you know, working with people. They've been excellent working with us. So I wouldn't mind seeing this postponed until we get the information from them, which they helped get it through the, you know, the solicitor's office. So I would make that motion if you'd like, Madam Chair.
And it's been moved and seconded to postpone this in committee, wait for further information. Is there a discussion on that? Committee members?
Point of order, Councilor Roby. Madam Chair?
Councilor Doucette?
Yes, just, we're talking about both of them at the same time, right?
Yes, I would.
Yes, that's fine.
We would, yes, that motion would cover both of them. So we can take individual votes if you would prefer to do that, or it would just be a motion to postpone. So
Yeah.
they're both still in committee.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify, I'm fine with one vote. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? I'm going to take a roll call vote from the committee to postpone both of these orders, order number 1621-100-6443 AAH and 1621-100-6443 AAI. Request for approval of signs at Apex. On the motion, Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette votes yes.
Counselor Wagner is not here. Counselor Navin.
Counselor Navin votes yes.
Counselor Landers.
Council Landis votes yes.
And Counselor Roby will vote yes. So, Mr. Lippert, if you can get us some information for a future meeting, we will bring this back to committee as soon as we have that and make a decision going forward. And there's nothing for the committee. Somebody can move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Counselor Doucette?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. So again, a roll call vote. Counselor Landers.
Council Landis votes yes.
Counselor Navin.
Counselor Navin votes yes.
Counselor Doucette.
Counselor Doucette votes yes.
And Counselor Roby votes yes. So we are adjourned. It is 8:29. Thank you all very much for your thoughts in this, and we'll see you at our next meeting. Thank you.